Chapter 991, Inheriting the Thieving Heaven True Inheritance. Chapter 991, Inheriting the Thieving Heaven True Inheritance. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Even the person involved, Feng Yuan, did not know the reason. When star constellation Immortal Venerable's song echoed in his ears again, he received some mysterious information in his mind. The information told him that at a certain area in Luo Po Valley, a thieving heaven true inheritance was hidden. Feng Yuan was greatly enticed. And also very suspicious. This isn't a trap left by the central continent Gu immortals, right? In which there is actually no thieving heaven true inheritance, but it is a wisdom path method specially used to influence the rationality of enemies who enter the valley. Feng Yuan quickly calmed down, and began to inspect all over his body as well as the surrounding environment. Star constellation Immortal Venerable's song had appeared abruptly and disappeared just as quickly. Feng Yuan inspected himself and found nothing wrong. He then checked his surroundings, the many Gu formations arranged in Luo Po Valley as well as large numbers of damaged Gu formations. However, Feng Yuan did not discover any wisdom path Gu formations. He lowered his head and pondered, feeling this matter might be strange but its credibility was high. The reasons? One was star constellation Immortal Venerable's song, and the second was the contents inside the information, indicating to Feng Yuan that he had to use open door Gu to enter the thieving heaven true inheritance. I am already a wisdom path grandmaster, normal wisdom path methods probably won't be able to influence me. Let alone when the only wisdom path Gu immortal among the group of central continent Gu immortals, Old Oracle, is already dead. Actually, it is easy to verify this, I just have to test it out myself. Feng Yuan made a decision and cautiously neared the location. He detoured around 4 Gu formations and unraveled 3 Gu formations. Central continent's Gu immortals had arranged large numbers of Gu formations in the periphery of Luo Po Valley. This was because they had been attacking Shadow Sect for a long time from the periphery. When they invaded the valley, they destroyed Shadow Sect's Gu formations. After the battle, Central Continent's Gu immortals officially occupied this valley. The intense battle was already concluded by then and they had no more need to arrange any Gu formations. Adding in Feng Yuan's deepening wisdom path attainment, these Gu formations were simply no obstacle to him. After a while, he arrived at the location which the information during star constellation Immortal Venerable's song had indicated. Feng Yuan observed for a long while, having no hurry in using open door Gu. But in the end, he could not find any clues. This place was extremely safe, at least, Feng Yuan could not detect anything even after using all his methods. After confirming again and again, his eyes flashed before he resolutely decided to use open door Gu. In his previous life, Feng Yuan had also used open door Gu in Luo Po Valley, but he had not obtained any results. Feng Yuan had thought thieving heaven demon Venerable's arrangement was already dismantled by Shadow Sect. But this life, soon after Feng Yuan used the open door Gu, a change occurred. An entrance of light suddenly appeared in the air. Shortly, a beam of light shined on the prepared Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan was shocked, he thought for a moment before letting the beam of light engulf him. At the next moment, Feng Yuan entered the space of the thieving heaven true inheritance. This space was vast, extremely vast. Behind him was that entrance of light which had not disappeared and was still there. It was only that the size of the entrance was gradually becoming smaller. If it continued shrinking, it would likely disappear. Sounds of wind appeared from nearby. Feng Yuan moved his gaze towards the source and was immediately shaken. Winds of assimilation. He cried out inwardly, his gaze revealing extreme wariness. He was extremely clear of the power of winds of assimilation. This wind could assimilate everything into itself and expand continuously. Back then, Imperial Court blessed land had been destroyed by winds of assimilation. This time, dozens of huge tornadoes of winds of assimilation had formed, slowly moving in the true inheritance space. Feng Yuan quickly retreated, creating some distance from the winds of assimilation. He only felt slightly at ease after retreating hundreds of steps away. He then carefully sized up this true inheritance space. I had not expected there was truly a space here. That mysterious information was true. Feng Yuan was cautious, and still held doubts towards the information during star constellation Immortal Venerable's song. He did not hurriedly wander around this true inheritance space to look for the true inheritance, instead his mind was focused on closed door Gu. If open door Gu can let me enter, then closed door Gu can close the entrance. Feng Yuan activated closed door Gu. Sure enough, the next moment, that shrinking entrance of light in his vision suddenly disappeared. Feng Yuan's eyes flashed with sharp light as he activated open door Gu again. Under the use of this rank 5 mortal Gu, a new entrance of light formed in front of him again. Feng Yuan stepped into this entrance of light and immediately left the thieving heaven true inheritance space, returning to Luo Po Valley. This means that information should be true. No, more precisely, the part about open door Gu and closed door Gu is true. Feng Yuan unavoidably had some expectations. He entered the true inheritance space again. According to the contents in the information, these winds of assimilation are genuine, but they are harmless to me. And I can only inherit the true inheritance after dispelling these winds of assimilation. Feng Yuan carefully approached one of the tornadoes of winds of assimilation. He revealed his true form and stretched out his 8 large arms. He slowly moved one of his hands towards the tornado. Suddenly, the roaring winds of assimilation completely dissipated. Feng Yuan's eyes shined brightly. He mumbled to himself, incredible. Winds of assimilation can assimilate everything, but they are so restrained in this true inheritance space. Even if the Gu immortal who arranged this space is not thieving heaven demon venerable, just this method shows they are absolutely a peerless expert. Although he removed one of the tornadoes of winds of assimilation, Feng Yuan was not careless, and was very cautious in touching the winds each time. If anything was wrong, he could instantly retreat. Every time, after moving a certain distance, he would use open door Gu and closed door Gu, letting the entrance of light open up as close to him as possible. Like this, even if something happened and he did not have time to activate fixed immortal travel, Feng Yuan could still retreat rapidly to the entrance of light and move to the outside world. One after another, the tornadoes of winds of assimilation started to disappear under Feng Yuan's efforts. After a while, there was only one tornado left in the center. Feng Yuan observed briefly and discovered, this tornado not only had the largest size, it was also moving the fastest. The sound of the wind roared in Feng Yuan's ears. This tornado seemed to be hiding something in the center. Could it be that the thieving heaven true inheritance is within this tornado? Feng Yuan could not help but guess this. He stretched out his finger and touched this dark green tornado. The winds of assimilation suddenly disappeared, revealing a person. This person was sitting cross-legged in mid-air, wearing a red and white robe, and was revealing a faint rank 7 aura. Feng Gu. Feng Yuan cried out softly, and subconsciously retreated. But Feng Gu was even faster than him. He suddenly opened his eyes, letting out a sharp gaze. The piercing, sharp gaze scanned Feng Yuan, before Feng Gu turned into a rainbow light, and with lightning speed, he flew past Feng Yuan, moving into the entrance of light. The whole process was over before one could even blink. Feng Yuan reacted. His first action was to activate closed door Gu. The entrance of light closed and Feng Yuan finally relaxed. Why is Feng Gu here? Could it be that the place he was trapped in was this true inheritance space? Since he was here, then what about the others? Where are Qin Baisheng, Ao Shui, and Ling Mei? Feng Yuan quickly inspected, but the true inheritance space was empty, with just an information path mortal Gu hovering in front of Feng Yuan. This information path Gu worm was left behind by Feng Gu. When Feng Yuan did not discover anything wrong with it, only then did he send his consciousness inside to check. Feng Yuan, so you are an otherworldly demon. I will keep this a secret for you. You want to know why I recognize you? Because I am Feng Jin Huang's father. Today, you saved my life. In the future, I will save yours. After I leave, there will only be you left in the true inheritance space. The thieving heaven true inheritance will be inherited by you. We shall meet again someday. Feng Gu. Feng Yuan grasped this letter Gu with a complex expression. He heaved a sigh before storing the Gu in his immortal aperture. At this moment, the entire true inheritance space began to dim. The bright light rays that had been present earlier disappeared in an instant, turning the space into darkness. In this darkness, there was only one spot where there was some light. It was precisely the spot where Feng Yuan stood. A charming masculine voice came from the darkness. Traveler from far away. You and I are the same, we are both pitiful people who cannot return to our homes. My real name is Ben Jia Sun, people in this world call me Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable. In truth, I am just a vagrant who wants to return home. This world feels like a cage of despair. If you also want to return home, then accept my present. I believe it can definitely help you. But if you want to return home, you still need to rely on your own effort. This gift's name is Ghostly Concealment. At the next moment, Feng Yuan appeared in Luo Po Valley. A layer of gray light was shining over his whole body. Feng Yuan ignored this gray light, and instead used investigative and defensive methods, being vigilant of his surroundings. Feng Gu did not appear. It seems his injuries are extremely serious, not even having half of his strength. If not for this, he might have made a move against me in the true inheritance space. But, this person clearly distinguishes kindness and hatred. Kindness is repaid, and revenge is taken for hatred. His biography after he died explained this point. His words of repaying me for saving his life are perhaps true. Feng Yuan contemplated. Feng Gu did not take action against Feng Yuan, perhaps it was not because his battle strength had fallen, but because Feng Yuan had saved him. No matter what, Feng Yuan had profited hugely this time. Having Feng Gu owe him a favor, such a huge connection would probably be of great use in the future. He also obtained ghostly concealment, although Feng Yuan did not know what its use was, it was after all a thieving heaven true inheritance. Besides these two, there was also this Luo Po Valley. Feng Gu has probably already left Luo Po Valley, now it is the best time to take this valley. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan decisively took action. What's going on? Hui Fengzi, who was guarding the valley, was shocked by the scene of Luo Po Valley. His eyes widened as he shouted incredulously, someone is taking away Luo Po Valley. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 992, Feng Yuan outwits Hui Fengzi. Chapter 992, Feng Yuan outwits Hui Fengzi. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Hui Fengzi was startled and furious. Even though he did not surrender willingly, because of the situation, after he had surrendered to them, he could only work for them even if he did not want to. Central Continent ordered him to stay here and guard Luo Po Valley. They had naturally made many arrangements on his body. Hui Fengzi was restricted by them, and for the sake of his safety, he had to stand up and stop Feng Yuan from taking Luo Po Valley. But when he saw Feng Yuan, Hui Fengzi, who was startled and furious, shook intensely, he called out in fear, Feng Gu. Feng Yuan looked at him lightly with a calm expression. The Central Continent Gu immortals had already left Northern Plains and returned to Central Continent. Then, they would naturally leave some arrangements back in Northern Plains. How could the astute Feng Yuan not guess this? Thus, while taking Luo Po Valley, he turned into Feng Gu. So the Central Continent Gu immortals arranged Hui Fengzi to guard this place. It seems that Central Continent has good methods, making this fastest person in Northern Plains defend their interests against his will. Furthermore, seeing his expression, did he not see Feng Gu leave earlier? Is Feng Gu still in the valley? No, that is unlikely. After the 100 Days battle, the Shadow Sect Gu immortals have already left. Feng Gu knows this is a dangerous place. He is heavily injured, although he mentioned repaying the debt of saving his life, he was very intent on urgently escaping. Thus, he did not speak to me inside the true inheritance space. Guarding against others was a necessity. Feng Xiaoji's actions were extremely wise. After all, Feng Yuan was not Zhao Lianyun. In the previous life, Feng Xiaogu spoke when Zhao Lianyun appeared. But now, when Feng Yuan showed up, Feng Xiaogu kept completely silent. Let alone another point. If Feng Yuan knew Feng Xiaogu was there, he would likely attack. Killing Feng Xiaogu would give immense profits. Even if he could not get his immortal Gu, searching his soul was very valuable. In addition, if he could capture Feng Xiaogu alive, he could either extort Spirit Affinity House or sell him to enemy forces of Feng Xiaogu. Such transactions would be hugely profitable. Feng Xiaogu is heavily injured. He is extremely vigilant now. He did not speak with me. Maybe after leaving Luo Po Valley, he saw Hui Fengzi but did not approach him. The likely reasons for that being, either he did not know Hui Fengzi surrendered, or even if he knew, he was afraid of the internal conflicts of the 10 great ancient sections. After all, a person's inner thoughts and intentions are inscrutable. With Feng Xiaoji's current state, he could not take a risk. Feng Yuan appeared impassive, but he had already considered many things. Countless thoughts had appeared in his mind in just these few breaths of time. He is real. Hui Fengzi used his method to investigate, and after confirming Feng Xiaoji's identity, he sighed in relief. Feng Xiaogu was the leader of the Central Continent Gu Immortals. If he personally was taking Luo Po Valley, Hui Fengzi had no reason to stop him. This subordinate greets Lord Feng Xiaogu. Hui Fengzi was very obedient. He flew forward and paid respects to Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan nodded. I have understood what happened. Defend me, I am not to be interrupted when taking Luo Po Valley. His words were short and did not contain much information. But by stating this beforehand, he prevented Hui Fengzi from becoming suspicious. Yes, Lord. Hui Fengzi quickly replied. Like this, under the protection of Hui Fengzi, Feng Yuan succeeded in taking Luo Po Valley. Even though Luo Po Valley was moved away, there are many blessed lands left. Stay guard here and prevent any problems from occurring. Before leaving, Feng Yuan said this to Hui Fengzi in a serious tone. Hui Fengzi did not suspect anything. He nodded in agreement. Feng Yuan flew away calmly. Feng Xiaogu has already escaped. That confirms that Qin Baisheng is dead. Hui Fengzi looked at his figure while sighing at Feng Xiaoji's great strength. Hui Fengzi was not surprised by this. He knew that Qin Baisheng was heavily injured. Hui Fengzi suddenly thought, oh no. The 10 great ancient sects restrain each other. They have internal conflicts. Feng Xiaogu is a member of Spirit Affinity House. I have no reason to stop him from taking Luo Po Valley, but I have to send this information over to the other 9 sections. Thinking of this, he did not hesitate. He quickly used his information path methods. Prince Feng Xian quickly received his letter. Oh. Feng Xiaogu is still alive. Not only did he come out, he even took Luo Po Valley. Prince Feng Xian was overjoyed. He laughed loudly. Meanwhile, after leaving Hui Fengzi, Feng Yuan flew to a safe location and met with Tai Bai Yunsheng, as well as the Featherman Gu Immortal Zhou Zhong. These two were arranged to be situated not far away, just in case they were needed. At the same time, he had been maintaining contact with He Lulan and Fairy Li Shan. If any trouble occurred, they would be called over as reinforcements. With He Lulan and Blazing Heaven Demoness relationship, even if a rank 8 Gu Immortal appears, Feng Yuan could deal with them. Naturally. The current situation was best. Feng Yuan obtained Luo Po Valley on his own. And He Lulan was not like in his previous life. Without He Cheng's soul, she could not know the location of Luo Po Valley. Feng Yuan wanted to keep quiet and earn a fortune, not telling her about Luo Po Valley. Fairy Li Shan had once suppressed Feng Yuan. There was no way he would tell them about Luo Po Valley. Once they knew, with Blazing Heaven Demoness demanding personality, she would definitely request the use of Luo Po Valley. Even in the future, if I want to trade with them using Luo Po Valley, it will be after my soul becomes sufficiently powerful. Feng Yuan returned to Star Form Blessed Land and placed Luo Po Valley there. He Lulan went to Hu Immortal Blessed Land often. She had to use strength Qi immortal Gu to refine air sac Gu with the hairy men. Thus, it was not wise to put Luo Po Valley inside Hu immortal blessed land. The matter regarding Luo Po Valley came to an end, but Feng Yuan was still apprehensive. His gains in Luo Po Valley were beyond his expectations, but the course of events was way out of Feng Yuan's control. The feeling of losing control over the situation was extremely irritating. Feng Yuan felt uneasy. In the thieving heaven true inheritance, Feng Yuan obtained ghostly concealment. Feng Yuan checked his body, he found that his soul was covered by a layer of Dao marks. But Feng Yuan did not know what the use of ghostly concealment was. Thankfully, he had joined Xianxia sect. Thus, Feng Yuan went to Xianxia blessed land and asked about thieving heaven demon venerable. Xianxia land spirit did not conceal things or make any requests, he told Feng Yuan a lot of information. There are many inheritances of thieving heaven, but he only has 10 true inheritances. The one you got earlier was to make me refine 3 Gu, that was not a true inheritance. Each thieving heaven true inheritance is an unparalleled treasure in the world, they contain the essence of thieving heaven demon venerable's cultivation. Anyone who obtains them will gain immense potential. There is only one requirement of these true inheritances, that is, the inheritor has to be an otherworldly demon. Legend says that thieving heaven demon venerable had 2 defensive killer moves, named divine concealment and ghostly concealment. The use of divine concealment was to conceal oneself from the deductions of any thoughts, wills, and emotions. As for ghostly concealment, it is very mysterious, I do not know much, it seems to have something to do with the soul. Ah! You are suddenly so interested in thieving heaven demon venerable's information. Why? Did you obtain a clue to a thieving heaven true inheritance? Feng Yuan laughed, you guessed correctly. Divine concealment, ghostly concealment. Xianxia land spirit sighed, deeply moved, if I had divine concealment, Xianxia blessed land would become a true paradise, we will no longer face any heavenly tribulations or earthly calamities. It is a pity, thieving heaven demon venerable created 10 true inheritances, but they are extremely mysterious, until now, I have not heard of anyone obtaining them. His true inheritances come in pairs, divine concealment and ghostly concealment are a pair. Obtaining one will give you clues to the other. Feng Yuan, if you can obtain divine concealment and contribute it to Xianxia sect, I will make you the second supreme elder. In the whole of Xianxia sect, you will be second to only me, you will have immense authority. In fact, you will be able to take 1 rank 7 immortal Gu from my inventory. Ah, no, at least 2 rank 7 immortal Gu. Feng Yuan nodded, Xianxia land spirit's change of personality gave him a lot of benefits. At least, the previous Xianxia land spirit was too conservative, he would not promise Feng Yuan such benefits. However, if I can obtain divine concealment, that is a thieving heaven true inheritance. Back then, thieving heaven demon venerable went around stealing everywhere, nobody could deduce his location, was it not because of divine concealment and ghostly concealment? This inheritance is far more valuable than merely 2 rank 7 immortal Gu. Feng Yuan had a faint smiling expression. Xianxia land spirit pouted, he laughed loudly and tried to alleviate the awkwardness, you are not wrong. Actually, I did not finish what I was saying, not only will I give 2 rank 7 immortal Gu, you can even ask me for countless immortal Gu recipes, immortal killer moves, and all sorts of ancient secrets and inheritance clues. How about that, is that reward enough? That is about enough. I will be back when I get divine concealment. Feng Yuan obtained the information he wanted and turned around abruptly to leave Xianxia blessed land. Xianxia land spirit stared with wide eyes, muttering as he looked at Feng Yuan leaving, this fellow, he might have really obtained some clues. If I can get divine concealment, what is there to worry about? Waha! Even if I let him become the second supreme elder, the hairy man Gu immortals only listen to me, waha! Arg, I accidentally said my thoughts out loud again. Xianxia land spirit covered his mouth, staring at Feng Yuan innocently. Feng Yuan was used to such strangeness, he laughed internally. If it were any other force, he would feel wary and alert. But joining Xianxia sect, with a leader like this, things were extremely easy. I heard everything you said. Feng Yuan waved to Xianxia land spirit without turning around, using fixed immortal travel and leaving Langya blessed land. Langya land's spirit was left behind with a dejected expression. He stomped his foot and muttered, "Damn it! Damn it!" Returning to Hu immortal blessed land, Feng Yuan's gaze flickered uncertainly as he fell into deep thought. I am a transmigrator, even though my body is from this world, my soul is from outside. Thus, I am an otherworldly demon. I have the qualification to obtain thieving heaven's true inheritances. Earlier, thieving heaven demon Venerable left behind some words. It indicated that he was also an otherworldly demon. It can be either very difficult or very easy to obtain thieving heaven's true inheritances. The most important thing is the status of being an otherworldly demon. No wonder thieving heaven demon Venerable spread clues everywhere in setting up this true inheritance. I was wondering why the clues of open door Gu and closed door Gu were so easily obtained. But after obtaining ghostly concealment, I did not find any trace of divine concealment. This means, divine concealment has already been taken by someone. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 993, Immortal Zombie Bo Qing appears. Chapter 993, Immortal Zombie Bo Qing appears. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Feng Yuan still had many questions. He did not get the answer he wanted from Langya Land Spirit. Feng Yuan still did not have conclusive clues regarding ghostly concealment. Up until now, he only knew ghostly concealment targeted the soul. Divine concealment is already an extraordinary wonder, and ghostly concealment, which is equally famous, should not be worse. Actually, I am even more curious about that song than ghostly concealment. Every time he thought of this, Feng Yuan would subconsciously frown. The song which star constellation Immortal Venerable had sung in the dream realm was extremely peculiar. According to logic, the song originated in the dream realm and should have no relation to reality. But Feng Yuan's experience in Luo Po Valley showed that this song had huge significance in reality, almost like a prophetic song. Speaking of prophecies, they have always been a specialty of wisdom path great experts. Like Immortal Yi Yan's prophecy of 3 venerables. Could it be that this dream realm is a prophetic dream realm left behind by star constellation Immortal Venerable? Feng Yuan guessed. Star constellation Immortal Venerable was the greatest expert in wisdom path. After she died, the arrangements she left behind schemed against 3 demon venerables, ensuring heavenly court did not fall. This dazzling achievement consolidated her status in wisdom path firmly at the peak, and later generations could only look up to her. For her dream realm to be special and able to deliver a prophecy was not that strange. Moreover, although the latter stages during Feng Yuan's previous life of 500 years was the time when dream path developed rapidly like a raging fire, it was far from being explored fully. It was not strange for Feng Yuan to not be aware of this special kind of dream realm. Fallen songs and despondent heroes, difficulty in resisting the trials of fate. The first verse of this song should be talking about Luo Po Valley's thieving heaven true inheritance and also Feng Gu. Then what about the second verse? Bent swords sink in the sand, rising and falling from ancient times, the rumbling of an unceasing heavenly river. Feng Yuan mumbled. Heavenly river. Falling heavenly river. Bent swords sink in the sand, is it talking about the greatest expert in sword path, Bo Qing? It has already been countless years since he died under the tribulation. During his time, all 5 regions paid attention to him, he could do whatever he wished. Upon his death, even his corpse was lost, his glorious radiance dissipated. This could be said to be rising and falling from ancient times. After the experience in Luo Po Valley, Feng Yuan had already remembered the complete song. After making deductions, he increasingly felt this second verse of the song was related to Sword Immortal Bo Qing. Adding in his previous life's memories, Feng Yuan was even more determined to explore Falling Heavenly River. He had wanted to go anyway. It was filled with danger, but those corpses of ancient and immemorial desolate beasts along with desolate plants in Falling Heavenly River could be said to be superior immortal materials. They could not compare to those rank 8 and quasi-rank 9 immortal materials Feng Yuan obtained in Earth Trench. But their quantity was extremely large, and adding all of them would have a price that surpassed Feng Yuan's gains in Earth Trench. Although large numbers of Gu immortals had died at the bottom of Falling Heavenly River, at the initial stages of the exploration, almost every Gu immortal had made a fortune. It seems there is much to reap from Sword Immortal Bo Qing's appearance. It is just that it is still not the optimal time to explore. On one hand, the sword lights don't follow a fixed pattern, just being scratched would cause injuries and death if struck, it is too dangerous. On the other hand, Falling Heavenly River is home to ancient and immemorial desolate beasts, desolate plants, hidden undercurrents and whirlpools, there are countless dangers. Although Feng Yuan's modified immortal killer move Familiar Face was usable, it had limits. At present, Feng Yuan could only take on human form and could not transform into beasts or other species. The original Familiar Face could transform into anything. Why? Feng Yuan did not have change form Immortal Gu. One of the core supplementary Immortal Gu in Familiar Face was change form Immortal Gu. With this Immortal Gu, Feng Yuan could transform into other species, getting rid of the shackles of being only able to disguise as a human. But even with change form Immortal Gu, Feng Yuan could not go to the bottom of Falling Heavenly River. Besides ancient and immemorial desolate beasts along with desolate plants, Falling Heavenly River was filled with countless dangerous natural traps that were enough to take Feng Yuan's life. He only had to wait until Bo Qing's sword lights finished erupting, Falling Heavenly River would be cleansed, the beasts and the dangerous plants would be cleared away temporarily, the natural traps would also be almost completely destroyed. That would be the optimal time to enter Falling Heavenly River. During this short preceding period of time, Feng Yuan could only wait, there was no better alternative. Prince Feng Xian. The rank 8 Gu Immortal Prince Feng Xian was one of the peak experts of Northern Plains Gu Immortal world. But his true identity was a mole of Central Continent arranged by Spirit Affinity House many years ago. He had infiltrated Northern Plains when he was a Gu master. After going through Immortal Ascension, he became a genuine Northern Plains Gu Immortal. On one hand, he had support from Spirit Affinity House, on the other, it was also his own effort and talent that combined to let him achieve his current level. Prince Feng Xian was very loyal to Spirit Affinity House. He knew how much strategic importance Feng Gu had in regards to Spirit Affinity House currently. He had been extremely worried during the time Feng Gu disappeared. When he received Hui Fengzi's message and learned Feng Gu had appeared, he was extremely happy. It was just that he did not know that Feng Gu in this message was Feng Yuan in disguise. He waited for several days but did not see Feng Gu coming to his residence. I lead Spirit Affinity House's matters in Northern Plains, since Feng Gu is already out of danger, why did he not look for me? Could it be that he encountered some powerful enemies or troublesome matters? Prince Feng Xian knew Feng Gu's battle strength, but he was also aware of the huge battle between Feng Gu and Qin Baisheng. Feng Gu had been trapped for so long, and had now suddenly appeared. This information itself hinted at Feng Gu's miserable state. But since he has already freed himself, why didn't he come to find me at the first moment? The other Central Continent Gu immortals have already gone back, he probably won't be able to return to Central Continent with just his strength, he needs my help. Does he not trust me? While Prince Feng Xian was having doubts, a letter came from Spirit Affinity House. The letter expressed that Zhao Lianyun had successfully obtained divine concealment some days ago, and also that they knew ghostly concealment was in Luo Po Valley's thieving heaven true inheritance. Since Prince Feng Xian was able to become rank 8, he naturally had an astute mind. He came to a realization after reading the letter. So it was like this. He heaved a sigh. Where people interacted, there would be conflicts. Even after uniting to form an organization, internal conflicts would exist. Feng Gu was in power for too long, it had definitely resulted in dissatisfaction from many forces in Spirit Affinity House. This dissatisfaction had the chance to erupt when Feng Gu was missing. Merely considering the time when Zhao Lianyun obtained divine concealment, Prince Feng Xian knew someone had intentionally delayed matters. He immediately realized Feng Jiuji's plan. It seems Feng Gu is keeping a low profile currently to see who in the sect has ill intentions towards him. Or maybe he already knew and was only waiting for an excuse. He wants to grab hold of them using this opportunity and throw these people deep into the abyss. So, Feng Gu won't come to me because he knows he cannot influence me and I can send a message back to the sect at the first moment. But he is safest in my residence, and I am also help that he needs to rely on in order to return to Central Continent. He is not an idiot, he is a champion who knows how to make plans and schemes. It is very likely for him to still have injuries, while dangers exist from Shadow Sect externally and sect conflicts internally. Even if he doesn't come here, he must be near this place. Then, once something unexpected happens, he can ask for my help in time. So if I am going to search, I should first search the areas nearby. The moment he thought of this, Prince Feng Xian's eyes flickered with sharp light as he immediately took action. A rank 8 Gu immortal's full-powered search naturally was extraordinary. Soon, Prince Feng Xian discovered Feng Gu. Haha, brother Gu, I had to search for a while. He laughed heartily as he patted Feng Jiuji's shoulder. I hope brother Prince doesn't blame me. Feng Jiuji's expression was still slightly pale. I understand. Prince Feng Xian nodded, let's go. My grotto heaven is the safest place for you to recuperate. This Feng Gu naturally was not Feng Yuan in disguise. The two entered the grotto heaven and as they conversed, they talked about Luo Po Valley. Prince Feng Xian was slightly furious. Hui Feng Zi was negligent, he should be punished. As for the Gu immortal who took Luo Po Valley, he might be from Shadow Sect. Feng Yuan's image appeared in Feng Jiuji's mind for a moment, but he did not speak. Prince Feng Xian continued, I sent a letter to the sect after seeing you. You are able to return alive, this is the greatest news for us. I can't let your wife and daughter spend time in sorrow any longer. When your injuries are healed, I will hold a celebration for you. The celebration will last for 7 days and 7 nights, and only then will I let you go back to Central Continent. Us brothers will definitely drink until we get drunk. Feng Gu smiled bitterly. He knew Prince Feng Xian's intent. Prince Feng Xian was half an outsider to Central Continent, what he had to consider was the growth and interests of the whole sect. Feng Gu wanted to suppress the other Gu immortals in the sect, but if the process was too intense, it would inevitably create internal friction in the sect. Prince Feng Xian did not want to see this. However, when he thought of his wife and daughter, Feng Jiuji's heart softened. Never mind. Brother Prince truly considers everything. Feng Gu cupped his fists, his words containing hidden meaning. Prince Feng Xian laughed even more happily at this reply. The information reached Spirit Affinity House, all the higher-ups were in great jubilation. Feng Jiuji's disappearance brought these Gu immortals huge mental pressure. When Feng Gu was there, they had subconsciously neglected his worth. But his disappearance now made Spirit Affinity House's Gu immortals recognize how important Feng Gu was to the whole of Spirit Affinity House. Feng Jin Huang laughed with tears on her face, while Fairy Bai Qing also had a smile. Some were happy, and some were apprehensive. Feng Gu did not die. Things will be difficult for us in the following period of time. Su Hao and Li Juning were feeling heavy. They had intentionally delayed and hidden the news regarding Zhao Lianyun, although it was not blatant, discerning people would know it immediately. Even if Feng Gu could not use it against them, when he returns, he would definitely be displeased at Su Hao and Li Juning, and it would be a natural thing for him to suppress them to some extent. Feng Jiuji's news had reached Spirit Affinity House early. Naturally there was now no conference between the higher-ups, and Fairy Bai Qing also did not go to investigate Bo Qing. However, the immortal zombie Bo Qing still appeared. Swords roam unhindered over Central Continent. Countless sword lights shocked immortals and mortals. When the sword light stopped, countless Gu immortals began to move towards Falling Heavenly River. But Feng Yuan had already arrived at this place before them. In front of him, falling heavenly river was already dyed blood red and immortal materials filled his vision. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 994, Stealing Bo Qing's Immortal Gu. Chapter 994, Stealing Bo Qing's Immortal Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. This is the immemorial desolate beast myriad eyes clear bull. Feng Yuan looked at falling heavenly river, as a sinking bull head attracted his attention. He quickly hurried over, using his methods to pull up this bull head. An immemorial desolate beast was a strong life form that could rival rank 8 Gu immortals. The myriad eyes clear bull had a large body. Just this head already was like a small hill. And it was very heavy. Feng Yuan had once pulled up Luo Po Valley, but this bull's head alone was heavier than the valley. This bull head's weight is mostly on the horns. Incredible, the horns were already cut by the sword light and only half remain, but it is still so heavy. Feng Yuan gasped. The bull's horns were rank 8 immortal material, they were filled with metal path and earth path Dao marks. And the bull's skin was very rare, it was full of water path Dao marks. Unfortunately, Feng Yuan only had part of the skin from the bull's head. If it was the skin of the bull's body, not only would there be water path Dao marks, there would also be light path Dao marks. It was very useful for the refinement of investigative immortal Gu. But the eyes of the bull were the most valuable part of the myriad eyes clear bull. The 2 eyes were dark and deep, they were full of dark path Dao marks. When Feng Yuan obtained them, there were many dark path wild mortal Gu inside, mostly rank 5, they could not escape in time. The eyes of the myriad eyes clear bull could not see. They were blind to begin with. The mechanisms through which the myriad eyes clear bull truly perceived vision were the eye tattoos on its thick skin. They were very mystical. The Dao marks that were on such rank 8 level lifeforms already had functions helpful to them. For example, the 10,000 Li earthworm was also an immemorial desolate beast, it had extremely strong regenerative abilities. As for what gave it this ability, it was the wondrous Dao marks on it. Only by destroying these Dao marks can the 10,000 Li earthworm truly be killed. But 10,000 Li earthworms were hidden deeply inside earth trench or earth abyss, they did not exist in falling heavenly river. The lifeforms in falling heavenly river were mostly related to water path, followed by earth path, metal path, wind path, light path and dark path. There were few fire path lifeforms here. This is the right arm of an ancient desolate beast, Icefall divine ape. This is the tail of an ancient desolate beast, Snow soil crocodile. What is this? Never mind, I will collect it first. Feng Yuan was prepared, he rapidly looted. These were all severed portions of bodies, Feng Yuan could recognize some of them, but not all. They were mostly ancient desolate beasts and desolate plants, with a few of immemorial desolate level among them. But these rank 8 immortal materials, even if they were small in quantity, had immense value. Feng Yuan felt great joy every time he saw one. Oh my! This seems to be a life and death kunpeng. Feng Yuan gasped in surprise. When he was almost done collecting all of the immortal materials floating on the river, he found his 19th rank 8 immortal material. This was a gray fish with the size of a boat. It did not have gills, in place of them, there were Dao marks in the shape of feathered wings. The life and death kunpeng is a law path immemorial desolate beast, it is very special. Its body is filled with life and death Dao marks, it has 2 forms. One is a fish, the other is a bird. It lives as a fish for 8,000 years before turning into a bird after dying. After living for another 8,000 years, it will die for real. This life and death kunpeng seems to be close to becoming a bird, it is probably more than 7,000 years old. Feng Yuan sighed. Humans were the spirit of all beings, but they had short lifespans. Meanwhile, immemorial desolate beasts and ancient desolate beasts would often have thousands or tens of thousands of years to live. Not to mention plants. The most famous example was Kumu Mountain in northern plains. It was not a mountain, but an old earthwood tree. This tree had 1,000,000 years of history. Because it had grown extremely large, it was called a mountain. Compared to it, primordial origin immortal venerable, who had the longest lifespan among venerables, only lived for 25,000 years. Red Lotus Demon Venerable with the shortest lifespan lived for 3,000 years, it was barely a fraction of that of the old earthwood tree. This life and death Kunpeng had a well-preserved corpse, only the fish head was partially cut away, the rest of its entire body was still around. Together with the life and death Dao marks that it had, this special type of rule path Dao mark was very rare in the entire world, thus it was very valuable. This life and death Kunpeng is probably my biggest gain in this trip. Keeping the life and death Kunpeng in his aperture, Feng Yuan sighed internally. At this moment, the bloody water in falling heavenly river was frothing. Large numbers of fierce beasts and immemorial level aquatic plants were fighting over the severed limbs and corpses. Feng Yuan had insufficient battle strength, he could only work quickly and collect the immortal materials that floated to the surface. From time to time, some immortal materials floated up. These immortal materials were mostly taken by Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan wisely left some alone due to the might of the fierce beasts and plants underwater that sought them. Gradually, under the river, there was growing chaos. These severed limbs and flesh were good food for these living beings. As their food decreased, they engaged in fierce combat that caused bloodshed. Sometimes, some dead ancient desolate beast corpses would float up to the river's surface. Feng Yuan would take them away and earn a heavy sum. As time passed, Feng Yuan's gains decreased, while the risk of collecting immortal materials became larger. He was a bit hesitant, wanting to leave while it was safe, but on the other hand, he wanted to explore the riverbed. After all, star constellation Immortal Venerable's second sentence seemed to be referring to Bo Qing's immortal zombie body. But it was all only a guess, he was uncertain. Right at this time, star constellation Immortal Venerable's singing voice appeared in his head again. Fallen songs and despondent heroes, difficulty in resisting the trials of fate. Bent swords sink in the sand, rising and falling from ancient times, the rumbling of an unceasing heavenly river. Alas! Spectral night carries a soul into endless dreams, where can one rest in peace? During spring and autumn body and mind shifts, only heavens will remains vast and boundless. As the voice faded, a second wave of mysterious information entered Feng Yuan's mind. Sword Immortal Bo Qing, Mo Yao's remnant soul. Feng Yuan was shocked, his eyes shone with brilliant light. So what if I take another risk? As long as I can obtain Sword Immortal Bo Qing's Sword Path Immortal Gu, even if I am unable to display their true power, it could be comparable to part of an Immortal Gu house. Feng Yuan was very resolute, he immediately left this part of the river's surface, choosing a faraway place and diving deep into the river. Because the sword lights had rampaged and almost all of the fierce beasts were gathered at that segment of the river fighting for resources, Feng Yuan could dive in very safely now. In fact, he even picked up some naturally present immortal materials. Like snow soil, unchanging water, Chilan ice and others. Arriving at the location indicated by the mysterious information, Feng Yuan stopped moving in the river. He took out Mo Yao's fake will. Feng Yuan, what do you want? Mo Yao's fake will was at first indignant, but she was quickly weakened by Feng Yuan's methods, she was defenseless and at his mercy. It seems that somehow, everything has a connection. Mo Yao, your fake will cause me to topple 88 True Yang building, today, I will return you that favor. Mo Yao's fake will was captured by Feng Yuan, it dissipated slowly, as an intense aura spread out. Sensing this aura, a beam of light appeared, as an incomparable sword chi burst into the sky. Feng Yuan was startled and almost retreated, but the sword chi did not attack him, it only cleared the surroundings and was very gentle towards him. In the beam of light, Sword Immortal Bo Qing's immortal zombie body slowly appeared. Feng Yuan held his breath, looking at Bo Qing's immortal zombie body tightly. The latter did not open his eyes, they were still closed. This meant that the remnant soul of Mo Yao inside the body was still in a semi-conscious state. This remnant soul only felt a familiar aura and was drawn over by Feng Yuan's methods, arriving in advance. His surroundings were covered in sword light, Feng Yuan could only move 3 steps closer. This distance was his limit. Any closer and Feng Yuan would not be able to conceal it. After all, he was relying on just a fake will that Mo Yao had left behind. And this fake will had been weakened and tortured by Feng Yuan countless times. Basically all my other methods are unusable. Only through using Mo Yao's will can my aura be disguised and the immortal Gu in Bo Qing's immortal zombie body be lured out. Feng Yuan moved carefully, he was afraid that enough of a disturbance would wake up the other party. Actually, the most drastic method against immortal zombie Bo Qing was to take away all of his rank 8 immortal essence. That way, even if he has immortal Gu, he would not be able to do anything. Although that did not account for special existences like Dreamwing's immortal Gu. Immortal zombie Bo Qing had died for a long time, his immortal aperture was completely gone. If not for the layers of sword light around his body, Feng Yuan could even capture him alive. But reality was not as Feng Yuan hoped. The thick sword light protected immortal zombie Bo Qing, anyone who breached it would be attacked by the countless sword lights. According to the mysterious information in his mind, Feng Yuan used his method and quickly saw effect, he lured out an immortal Gu. This immortal Gu was like a swan's egg, it was translucent, and from the outside, jade light could be seen in it. When it was close, Feng Yuan could feel a bone-chilling coldness emitting from this immortal Gu. Feng Yuan was overjoyed. Even though he did not know what immortal Gu this was, or what use it had, the aura of the immortal Gu told him that it was a rank 7 immortal Gu. What sort of person was Bo Qing? Even in history, he was known as among the strongest people beneath the venerables. Even though he was not invincible, he could still easily dominate and suppress all of Central Continent. None of the immortal Gu that he used was rank 6. They were at least rank 7, and his core sword path immortal Gu would certainly all be rank 8. If not for that, he would not have that terrifying battle strength which he was famous for. Feng Yuan enveloped this immortal Gu in Mo Yao's aura, before using wisdom path methods to seal it completely. These seals were very fragile, they were deceptive in nature. He was deceiving the consciousness of the immortal Gu, making it feel that it was still in its owner's hands, that it had not been taken away by a stranger. Feng Yuan could not touch this immortal Gu yet, he kept it in his immortal aperture. Soon, he repeated it again and used his method on Bo Qing. This time, after a long while, a second immortal Gu was drawn out by Feng Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 995, Rank 8 Wisdom Sword Gu. Chapter 995, Rank 8 Wisdom Sword Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. This immortal Gu was the size of an adult's finger, it was silver and blue in color, shining with a bright light. It was like a centipede, but instead of having multiple pairs of legs, it had soft and thin hair instead. This seems to be, Sword Eyebrows Immortal Gu. Feng Yuan thought and had a flash of inspiration. This was among the information that he had obtained from Feng Jin Huang. Sword Immortal Bo Qing had a rank 7 Immortal Gu, Sword Eyebrows, it was not an attack type Gu, instead, it assisted with sword path cultivation. When Gu Immortals use it, they can modify their eyebrows. Every hair on their eyebrows could be embedded with sword path Dao marks. Dao marks had immense amplification effects towards the power of Immortal Gu. The number of hairs in a person's eyebrows, if one truly counted all of them, the quantity was not few. This Immortal Gu's value is very high, but to me, it can only be considered better than nothing. After all, I do not cultivate sword path. Feng Yuan surrounded this Immortal Gu with Mo Yao's aura and collected it carefully. Next, the third Immortal Gu appeared in front of Feng Yuan. This immortal Gu was more special. It did not have a fixed form, it was a snake at times, and a sword at other times. Its entire body was pale blue, resembling translucent liquid, like water. After being lured out, it continued to dance around Feng Yuan. The liquid formed into the shape of a blade, it was very vivid. But because it was moving around, the blade of the sword seemed to be soft and slippery, yet it gave Feng Yuan a feeling of extreme sharpness. Feng Yuan's immortal zombie body did not have weak defense. But when this immortal Gu surrounded him, everywhere it went, he could feel a sense of tearing on his skin when it got close. Combined with his information, Feng Yuan guessed that this was the rank 7 wave sword Gu. According to Spirit Affinity House's historical records, in the past, sword immortal Bo Qing had tried to raise this wave sword Gu to rank 8, but he failed. The Gu refinement failed, and Bo Qing suffered a huge loss. The rank 7 wave sword Gu was completely destroyed. But later, Bo Qing spent a lot of time and effort to refine the rank 6 wave sword Gu again. After that, he laboriously raised it to rank 7 again. The fourth immortal Gu was Flying Sword Gu. Its outer appearance was that of a silver-winged dragonfly. This rank 7 immortal Gu was one of the most commonly used immortal Gu by sword immortal Bo Qing in combat. Using this immortal Gu as a core, together with other immortal Gu and mortal Gu, he created many sword path killer moves, leaving a deep mark in history. For example, among them included the killer moves Formless Flying Sword, Cloud Flying Sword, Pursuing Flying Sword, 10,000 Li Flying Sword. The fifth immortal Gu was specially used for movement, it was called Sword Escape Gu. It was shaped like a golden bee. Once used, the person turns into a sharp sword, piercing through space and moving forward. The speed was so fast it was nearly on par with the Qi Escape immortal Gu of the same rank. In Bo Qing's life, among his countless prominent achievements, there was a recorded case. When he was rank 7, he was fighting with a Gu immortal of the same rank. After 3 rounds, the Gu immortal could not beat him. He used Qi Escape immortal Gu to escape. Bo Qing used Sword Escape immortal Gu to chase him. Even though he did not catch him, the distance was not reduced. Afterwards, Bo Qing used one of his immortal killer moves, Sword Rampage. One of the core immortal Gu of this move was Sword Escape immortal Gu. Once he used this move, the enemy's head was chopped off, and the victor was decided. After collecting these 5 immortal Gu, Feng Yuan did not want it to end. He continued to use the method on the slumbering Bo Qing. Mo Yao's fake will was limited, 65% was used up already. I wonder what immortal Gu is going to be next. Feng Yuan was filled with excitement and nervousness. He was dancing on top of sharp blades. If immortal zombie Bo Qing awakens, he would be in danger. But Feng Yuan knew that it was Mo Yao's remnant soul here, he was not defenseless against it. With his eloquence that could distort reality, it was not impossible to deceive the immortal zombie and the remnant soul. But if immortal zombie Bo Qing reawakens with rage and shock, he might kill Feng Yuan before he can talk. Feng Yuan would not wake up immortal zombie Bo Qing, of course. He was not going to place his life in the hands of another person's reaction. This time, there was no reaction when luring the immortal Gu. This was truly the longest period of waiting. An hour had passed, but there was no reaction at all. Maybe immortal zombie Bo Qing has no immortal Gu left. This is impossible, right? If he only had these immortal Gu, how could he create those incomparable sword lights that shot through the entirety of Central Continent? 2 hours passed, Feng Yuan had barely any of Mo Yao's fake will left. His heart suddenly jumped. He had placed many investigative mortal Gu and Gu formations near falling heavenly river. Suddenly, large numbers of mortal Gu and Gu formations were pulled out of their place. Other Gu immortals are coming. Feng Yuan's expression sank. Earlier, Feng Yuan had spent some time collecting immortal materials on the river surface. Looking at the time, it was not strange for other Gu immortals to come now. But if Gu immortals found out something wrong with the riverbed, and got close to Feng Yuan, that would be troubling. Feng Yuan was not worried about other Gu immortals, but immortal zombie Bo Qing instead. Others would not have Mo Yao's fake will. If they woke up immortal zombie Bo Qing accidentally, what would he do if he sees Feng Yuan taking his immortal Gu? He. The result was obvious. Most likely, Feng Yuan would be beheaded before he has a chance to speak. Mo Yao's fake will is almost used up, I need to leave. After all, I need to conceal my aura when leaving, thus, I cannot use up all of Mo Yao's fake will here. Feng Yuan was too close to Bo Qing. If he used fixed immortal travel directly, the immortal Gu's aura would surge, Mo Yao's remnant soul would reawaken, and Feng Yuan would die. However, just as Feng Yuan was about to leave, the sixth immortal Gu finally appeared in front of him. This immortal Gu's appearance was very simple, it was a bubble, floating and having an ordinary appearance. But its aura made Feng Yuan's eyes turn wide. This was a rank 8 sword path immortal Gu. No wonder it took so long to lure it out. But what immortal Gu is this? At once, Feng Yuan could not tell what this rank 8 immortal Gu was. He had no time to think about it. Using his earlier method, he took it into his immortal aperture. Leave. Leave quickly. This time, his gains were huge, far beyond Feng Yuan's expectations. He earned a fortune, great wealth could not describe his immense gains. Compared to this, the benefits in Earth Trench were nothing. Next, there would be more and more Gu immortals exploring Falling Heavenly River. If immortal zombie Bo Qing was awakened, Thus, he could not stay. The process of leaving Falling Heavenly River went very smoothly. The Gu immortal who came had rank 7 cultivation level, his shock had dissipated already. At this moment, his attention was drawn over by the fierce beasts which were fighting in the river. From time to time, high-grade immortal materials would float to the surface, before being swallowed by ferocious tides. This Gu immortal wanted to take these body parts, but he was hesitant and did not dare to strike. After all, now was no longer the best timing. It was very risky to try and steal their food. Feng Yuan left Falling Heavenly River, relaxing himself. Just as he was about to use fixed immortal travel, he shuddered. I remember now. This rank 8 immortal Gu is likely to be that legendary wisdom sword Gu. Feng Yuan's eyes shined with immense joy. This immortal Gu was created by Bo Qing. In the past, even though he had outstanding battle strength, he had suffered greatly at the hands of wisdom path Gu immortals, thus to deal with them specifically, he created wisdom sword immortal Gu. This immortal Gu is not just a sword path immortal Gu, it also contains the ingenuity of wisdom path. Thinking of this, Feng Yuan decided, when he subdues these immortal Gu, he would choose this Gu first. His wisdom path grandmaster attainment level made Feng Yuan gain a vague understanding. As long as he could control wisdom sword immortal Gu and use it for himself, Feng Yuan's gains would not just be a rank 8 immortal Gu. His wisdom path methods would improve by leaps and bounds, he would achieve a qualitative change. Safely returning to Hu immortal blessed land, Feng Yuan realized another point, Dong Feng Chang Fan's wisdom path inheritance, wisdom path grandmaster attainment level, rank 6 star thought Gu, rank 8 wisdom sword Gu, and rank 9 wisdom Gu. Without specific intention, my wisdom path prospects seem to have become the brightest. With my current state, strength path and time path seem to be more helpful to me, but in terms of prospects, wisdom path is far greater. He handled all of these immortal Gu that he obtained appropriately. Large amounts of Mo Yao's fake will were created, used as an expendable tool to seal the immortal Gu. As long as wills did not sleep, they would think, and they would be greatly expended. Back then, in Imperial Court blessed land, Mo Yao's fake will use delight in water and mountain immortal Gu to strengthen herself, replenishing all of her expenditure. Now, even though Feng Yuan did not have delight in water and mountain immortal Gu, he had other methods, and was a wisdom path grandmaster, it was easy for him to create Mo Yao's fake will. It was just that he needed to use countless mortal Gu of all kinds, Feng Yuan needed a lot of preparation. The situation in Falling Heavenly River happened too quickly, Feng Yuan's time was tight, he did not have time to create more of Mo Yao's fake will. Thinking back, his gains this time were truly too unthinkable. Chances to steal immortal Gu from others were extremely rare. Because under normal situations, immortal Gu could be destroyed with a single thought. Feng Yuan took advantage of the sleeping immortal zombie Bo Qing. To be able to steal the opponent's immortal Gu when they were awake, only rare cases like Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable were able to do that in history. Star Constellation Immortal Venerable's prophecy from that dream realm is truly formidable. What do the next few lines truly mean? Feng Yuan thought about the reasons for his huge gains and felt suspicious and expectant. Fallen songs and despondent heroes, difficulty in resisting the trials of fate. Bent swords sink in the sand, rising and falling from ancient times, the rumbling of an unceasing heavenly river. Alas! Spectral night carries a soul into endless dreams, where can one rest in peace? During spring and autumn body and mind shifts, only heavens will remains vast and boundless. Feng Yuan already understood the first two lines, but what were the later three lines trying to predict? Everything was too ambiguous at the moment, Feng Yuan could not guess now. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 996, Feng Yuan cultivates his soul. Chapter 996, Feng Yuan cultivates his soul. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Central Continent, Heavenly Court. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord, give up, this immortal Gu cannot be saved. By Tian urged. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord did not answer. At this moment, his hands were ethereal, giving off a warm orange light. An immortal Gu was nearly cut in half, but the orange light was sustaining its life. Its aura was strong at times and weak at other times, being very unstable. Lian Jiusheng's face was full of concern. He was a refinement path great expert. In his opinion, this immortal Gu was beyond saving. Even Lian Jiusheng could not save it if he tried. But Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord was insistent on trying. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord was in control of Heaven Overseeing Tower. He was a wisdom path Gu immortal. Gu immortals who have reached his level could make use of aspects of other paths even if they only cultivated one path, using it as the basis. A person at this level did not have shortcomings. He could use wisdom path to imitate the strength of other paths, and even due to taking an innovative approach, it could potentially surpass the original. Now, Lian Jiusheng could not help this immortal Gu, but Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's wisdom path methods gave them some hope. Except that the method he was using, in the opinions of Lian Jiusheng and Bai Tian, was too risky. If there were any errors, Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord would face a strong backlash, his Dao marks would go into chaos. Not only would he be heavily injured, he would not be able to use any immortal Gu for the next 30 years, otherwise his injuries would get more severe. Whoosh! Suddenly, from the immortal Gu's body, an extremely sharp, formless burst of sword chi flew out. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord could not react in time, but thankfully, this formless burst of sword chi only scraped past his ears, cutting down a strand of his white hair. Bai Tian was shocked. It's over. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's expression relaxed. He let out a breath of air, saying in a gratified tone, I pulled out the sword chi that was inside the immortal Gu, it has been saved. Earlier, countless sword lights had burst out of falling heavenly river, rampaging over central continent. One of the extremely sharp sword lights, like in the previous life, penetrated heavenly court and cut Heaven Overseeing Tower into two. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord quickly recalled Baizang Shui, Lian Jiusheng, and Baizang Shui. The four immortals had a discussion, as Baizang Shui headed to the riverbed of falling heavenly river, while the other three immortals repaired Heaven Overseeing Tower as it was being corroded by the sword chi, before its damage intensified. Soon, the immortal Gu in Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's hands could be seen recovering rapidly under the orange light. Lian Jiusheng's eyes shined, he clapped and praised, Tower Lord, your ability to sacrifice your emotions to repair the immortal Gu is truly an incredible wisdom path method. To think that you could really revive it, amazing. But, why did you take such a risk? This is a rank 6 immortal Gu, Heavenly Court's inventory is very abundant, we can refine it again easily. But if you got injured, you would not be able to do anything for 30 years, it would be an immense loss to Heavenly Court. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord shook his head, saying slowly, I don't know why, but recently, ever since the Refinement Path Convention started, I felt something wrong. It is as if a hidden danger is brewing, once it strikes, the consequences will be severe. We have just repaired Fate Gu and can now use half of its might. But when I was about to enter Heaven Overseeing Tower, a sword light flew over and coincidentally cut it in half. But was it really a coincidence? Bai Qin Tian and Lian Jiusheng looked at each other, as their expressions became grave. I will not hide it from you, I have been getting this feeling too. Bai Qin Tian said heavily, but my feeling only started when we repaired Fate Gu. Lian Jiusheng also said, so it was not my feeling alone. I thought that my descendants had encountered trouble, causing me to have this feeling. Now it seems it is not so simple. Tower Lord, you are a Wisdom Path Gu immortal and you control Heaven Overseeing Tower, your senses are sharper than ours, it seems that something is really going to happen. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord was still holding the healing immortal Gu, thus, I had to take a risk and try to heal this immortal Gu. Even though this is not one of Heaven Overseeing Tower's core immortal Gu, by saving it, we can resolve one of the biggest issues in Heaven Overseeing Tower's injuries at the moment. As long as we can fix the tower and use its might, together with our instincts, we will be able to deduce the truth. Also, Bo Qing died under the tribulation back then, why did he suddenly appear? Between the two, there seems to be some close connection. Next, I will continue to use this method to repair the other immortal Gu. During this process, I need to concentrate and I cannot be interrupted. If Fairy Tsang Shui sends any letters back, try to inform me as soon as possible. Bai Qin Tian and Lian Jiusheng nodded in agreement, understood. Matters regarding Bo Qing's immortal zombie body continued to grow as time passed, there was a huge influence on Central Continent and Heavenly Court. Just as the Central Continent Gu immortals placed their sights on falling Heavenly River. Feng Yuan had already obtained the biggest benefits and was cultivating on Dang Hun Mountain. At this moment, he was standing on Dang Hun Mountain's peak, waving a hand and sending out tens of thousands of souls. These souls were mostly beast souls, rabbit souls, goat souls, horse souls and others were the most common. There were fewer wolf souls, tiger souls and souls of other fierce beasts. There were plant souls too, but the type of souls in the fewest quantity were variant humans and humans. Actually, trade involving souls had long since existed. Because in this world, there were many Soul Path Gu immortals. Soul Path Gu worms had appeared since the immemorial era, but they had never formed into a path. Only upon the rise of a certain Gu immortal did Soul Path get created and flourish. This person was one of the 10 venerables in history, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable. He was the creator of Soul Path, and had also single-handedly pushed Soul Path to its peak over history. During his era, out of 10 Gu masters, at least 5 chose to cultivate Soul Path. For the cultivation of Soul Path, the soul was the most important resource. Souls were common Gu refinement materials needed for the refinement of Soul Path Gu worms. In order to create Soul Path Gu worms, Spectral Soul Demon Venerable had engaged in massacre and slaughter, to obtain countless souls. Thus, in history, he was also known as the Venerable with the most murderous nature. And because he created the rise of Soul Path, it also made his era filled with endless killing, it was a dark time when the world was in unrest. Because many Gu masters and Gu immortals cultivated Soul Path, they needed to kill and gain souls for their cultivation resources. Thus, during that era, the trading of souls appeared, they were undergone openly and on a grand scale. After that, Spectral Soul died, and Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable appeared. This kind and merciful Immortal Venerable did not promote strife against others, he loved peace. Because of his experiences growing up, he knew the suffering of the commoners, and understood the harm that Spectral Soul had caused. Thus, when he became an Immortal Venerable and was invincible in the world, one major accomplishment of his was to suppress Soul Path. Soul Path Gu masters thus decreased in numbers, and trade involving souls was forced to be done underground. The 5 regions began to recuperate and the killing subsided, the turbulence also gradually disappeared. What the people considered most memorable thing was, Paradise Earth Immortal Venerable did not force people using strength, he won support from people with virtue, and moved the world with his actions. Thus, up until today, even in Treasure Yellow Heaven, the largest and most free market in the world, the sale of souls was very rare. Feng Yuan's souls were obtained by Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan. Ever since Feng Yuan and He Lu Lan cooperated, the matter of souls was dealt with by them, he saved a lot of trouble. They were well-connected locals of northern plains, especially Fairy Li Shan, she was the 3rd leader of Snowy Mountain Blessed Land. She had Mountain Pledge Gu and had a huge network. These souls were immediately destroyed on Dang Hun Mountain. After the vibrations from Dang Hun Mountain, the souls were shattered and turned into countless soul essences that were fused into the mountain. Not long later, because of these souls, Dang Hun Mountain produced a new batch of Guts Gu. Normally speaking, the stronger the life form, the higher the quality of the soul. At the same time, the higher the intelligence of the life form, the higher the quality of the soul. This batch of souls is only average. Because inside, there are few fierce beasts, and no desolate beasts, with very few variant human and human souls. The Guts Gu generated will not be high in quantity. Feng Yuan estimated in his mind as he walked on Dang Hun Mountain. This batch of souls was not from Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan, but obtained by Feng Yuan. He was already different from in the past. He could obtain souls at a stable rate without Fairy Li Shan or taking action by himself personally. They were obviously not from Treasure Yellow Heaven, but Western Desert. Western Desert was the place with the greatest trade economy in the 5 regions. Feng Yuan was no longer a newcomer there, he had worked with Shao clan of Western Desert for some time, he had obtained their crucial token after gaining their recognition. Shao clan was a super force, it was not hard for them to obtain souls. But if the soul transactions were exposed, Shao clan would never admit they were involved. The trading of souls could not be done openly, Shao clan was, after all, a righteous path super force. Feng Yuan bought souls from Western Desert in order to guard against He Lu Lan, Fairy Li Shan, and Blazing Heaven Demoness. Even though they had set an alliance agreement, that did not mean that Feng Yuan did not need to guard against them anymore. Feng Yuan knew how to defend himself against others, and he was even more adept at harming others. Feng Yuan suddenly attempting soul cultivation would definitely lead to the suspicions of Fairy Li Shan and He Lu Lan. Feng Yuan did not want to leave any clues for them. When he uses Guts Gu to cultivate, it would cause the quantity of Guts Gu to fall. To make up for this, he secretly placed souls in and filled the difference. The typically rare Guts Gu could be easily picked up at Feng Yuan's feet. Feng Yuan did exactly so. Once Guts Gu left Dang Hun Mountain, they would be destroyed. But using Air Sac Gu, they could be contained and sold. After consuming a huge amount of Guts Gu, Feng Yuan's soul reached its limit, if he raised it any further, his soul would collapse. Feng Yuan felt that his immortal zombie body was feeling quite tight. It was like an adult man wearing clothes he wore when he was a teenager. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 997, Refining Bo Qing's Immortal Gu. Chapter 997, Refining Bo Qing's Immortal Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Actually, the limit of immortal zombie bodies in containing souls was higher than normal living bodies, it was just that they lacked the aspect of nourishing the soul. Only living bodies could nourish souls. A dead corpse's soul would continue to wither. Guts Gu played the most important role in Feng Yuan's soul being able to last until now. Besides this, he also used some other soul path methods to nourish his soul. Although spectral soul demon Venerable had brought disaster to the world, it was also because of him that soul path had dominated an era. Countless soul path experts emerged one after the other, innovating large numbers of soul path methods. Despite going through Paradise Earth Immortal Venerables era, until now, there are still large numbers of precious soul path methods that were passed down from generation to generation. I don't cultivate soul path. Soul path Gu immortals have soul path Dao marks which allow the body to hold an even stronger soul. After he reached the limit, Feng Yuan left to immortal blessed land and moved to star form blessed land. Luo Po Valley was placed here. Feng Yuan entered Luo Po Valley. Luo Po Valley had been modified by Shadow Sect and was in a completely different state. But Feng Yuan asked Tai Bai Yun Sheng to restore it, thus Luo Po Valley had regained its original environment. Luo Po Valley's terrain was complex like a maze. The legends of Renzu stated, in the past, Renzu had been trapped in the maze, unable to find his way out. Right now, Feng Yuan imitated Renzu and walked inside Luo Po Valley. He directly let his soul leave his body. A gray-white fog spread out. This was the famous bewilderment fog. Feng Yuan's soul was shrouded by the bewilderment fog, gradually diffusing. After the fog passed, cold wind blew. This was the famous Luo Po wind. The cold wind was like a knife as it cut Feng Yuan's soul, inflicting countless injuries. The incomparable pain almost drove Feng Yuan mad. This pain stemmed from the very depths of the soul and was countless times more painful than death by dismemberment. Feng Yuan roared at the sky, but he lacked a physical body, so he could only produce a piercing screech from his soul. After enduring for a while, Feng Yuan realized he had once again reached his limit. He wisely chose to retreat, his soul returning to the immortal zombie body. With the immortal zombie body's protection, the bewilderment fog and the Luo Po wind's might was immediately reduced by a large extent. Feng Yuan safely left Luo Po Valley. He inspected his soul. After going through the bewilderment fog and the destruction by the Luo Po wind, Feng Yuan's soul had shrunk by a large degree and was clearly heavily injured. If he continued, although it would not be severe to the extent where the soul dissipated, the enslaved Featherman Gu immortal Zhou Zhong might be able to get rid of the enslavement. The soul was the foundation of enslavement. When the soul is heavily injured, the enslavement would greatly weaken, and the enslaved party could have a chance to free themselves. I don't know how Renzu was able to stay for so long in Luo Po Valley. Feng Yuan gave a moved sigh, returning to Dang Hun Mountain. He continued to consume Guts Gu. Guts Gu was a mortal Gu, but it was worthy of being a thing of legend. Using it to heal the soul's injuries would show instant effects. Soon, the injuries to Feng Yuan's soul completely recovered. Feng Yuan once again inspected his soul. His soul had condensed by at least one-fold. Moreover, his soul was smeared with something like oil that emitted a faint eerie glow. Checking again, the burden on his soul from enslaving the Featherman Gu immortal Zhou Zhong was reduced by 30%. The inhuman torture and pain Feng Yuan suffered in Luo Po Valley was worth it. It was because his soul's impurities were extracted in Luo Po Valley, like iron that went through endless hammering and smelting before it finally turned to steel. His soul's quality had been elevated to another stage. And on Dang Hun Mountain, Guts Gu were continuously expended, which strengthened his soul at an unimaginable speed. The quantitative strength of the soul was increasing steadily. Luo Po Valley refines the soul, Dang Hun Mountain strengthens the soul. Both quantitative and qualitative change are combined, the soul's foundation advances at a tremendous pace. It is so fast, no wonder in my previous life, after He Lu Lan and Fairy Li Shan obtained Luo Po Valley, they moved back and forth between Dang Hun Mountain and Luo Po Valley, strengthening their soul foundation. They were cultivating freely. Feng Yuan sighed. He also wanted to imitate He Lu Lan and Fairy Li Shan, but he still had many things to do. Right now, there was the most important matter he had to deal with, that was Tian Mountain's battle, and the immortal Gu House graceful chaotic duel stage. No doubt, the stronger Feng Yuan becomes, the higher his chances of seizing graceful chaotic duel stage at the crucial time. Feng Yuan could only try to think of every possibility and make more appropriate arrangements for every task. He had to squeeze out every second of time, making every second count in his cultivation. Finally, Feng Yuan obtained news of the appearance of the immortal Gu house, graceful chaotic dual stage. What's going on? I made so many arrangements near Tian mountain, but they actually disappeared without alerting me. Feng Yuan made time in his busy schedule, personally going to southern border to inspect. But he did not discover any worthwhile information. Like in his previous life, Tian mountain displayed the ancient battle repeatedly. In the intense battle, the mysterious Gu immortal with the red lotus mark on his forehead finally used the immortal Gu house graceful chaotic dual stage to suppress the rank 8 Gu immortal with the great strength true martial physique. This Gu immortal has a red lotus imprint on his forehead. Does he have any relation to red lotus demon venerable? My rebirth had failed, but in the river of time, a red lotus appeared out of nowhere and turned my failure to success, letting me rebirth. Is there some connection between the red lotus in the river of time and this mysterious Gu immortal? Feng Yuan was confused, he could only shake his head and leave. He still had many matters to arrange. Graceful chaotic dual stage had appeared, but there was still some time before the battle of Tian mountain. At the very least, Feng Yuan needed to remove the aftereffects from enslaving the featherman Gu immortal Zhou Zhong in this period of time. Cultivating back and forth on Dang Hun mountain and in Luo Po Valley, Feng Yuan's soul foundation was rising sharply, while Zhou Zhong's soul was still at its original stage. The burden from enslaving a Gu immortal has completely disappeared. I can now easily slip into Tian mountain and secretly refine the immortal Gu house. The body nourishes the soul, while the soul brings about intelligence, producing thoughts, will, emotions, and promoting thought processes. The increase in his soul foundation would be very beneficial for Feng Yuan in refining the immortal Gu house graceful chaotic dual stage. Besides the aspect of the soul, if I can refine Bo Qing's sword path immortal Gu, it would be a huge increase to my battle strength. That would be even better. He had tried to refine all-out effort immortal Gu several times now, but had yet to succeed. At this time, Feng Yuan's rebirth plan had already reached the final juncture. He resolutely gave up on refining all-out effort immortal Gu, not continuing to invest in this sunk cost. During these last moments, Feng Yuan went all out in making preparations. Central Continent. Immortal zombie Bo Qing left falling heavenly river and was slowly rising up. Under his feet, the surging waves and tides of falling heavenly river attacked the shore, engulfing the piled-up snow. Blood had already faded from the water, while countless ferocious beasts living in the river sensed Bo Qing's aura, and scattered everywhere in panic. And in the riverbed of falling heavenly river, there were corpses of many Gu immortals. Only the rank 8 Gu immortal from heavenly Kur, by Tsang Shui, had luckily survived. I have lost many immortal Gu, my battle strength is reduced. Immortal zombie Bo Qing spoke in a low and deep voice. What's our next course of action? Right now, standing beside him was the owner of Starry Sky Grotto Heaven, envoy Blue of Shadow Sect, immortal zombie 7-star child, as well as the blood path demonic immortal Song Zixing, also known as Blood Dragon, and the hairy man refinement path Gu immortal Yumu Chun. Somehow, there was a difference in this situation as compared to the previous life. In the previous life, 7-star child and Song Zixing had died at Bo Qing's hands. But now, they were both alive. Perhaps this was because Feng Yuan had used Mo Yao's fake will to plunder Bo Qing's immortal zombie body. Song Zixing and Yumu Chun did not speak, letting 7-star child speak. Next, Song Zixing and Yumu Chun will use an immortal killer move to transport the 4 of us to Central Continent's northeast region to attack Heavenly Lotus Sect. He had already made the arrangements. In the previous life, 7-star child and Song Zixing had died, only Yumu Chun was left behind, unable to activate this powerful immortal killer move. But now, it was different. In Heavenly Court, Heaven overseeing Tower Lord was shocked and furious. He saw the 4 immortals with immortal zombie Bo Qing at the lead, battling as they headed towards one of the 10 great ancient sects of Central Continent, Heavenly Lotus Sect. He was unable to keep watching from the sidelines. Because, he, Heaven overseeing Tower Lord, was a Gu immortal formerly from Heavenly Lotus Sect. In Heavenly Lotus Sect, he had large numbers of disciples and descendants. Right now, immortal zombie Bo Qing had awakened, Heavenly Lotus sect was in danger. Only Heavenly Court's Gu immortals could save them. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord flew out of Heaven Overseeing Tower, summoning Lian Jiusheng by Tian. An issue has occurred in Falling Heavenly River. Bo Qing revived as an immortal zombie and is attacking Heavenly Lotus sect. We have to reinforce them now. The two immortals were extremely shocked. Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's words contained information that was simply too hard to believe. Go. The two immortals were only stunned momentarily. Immediately after, they reacted and the three immortals used Heavenly Court's teleportation Gu formation and appeared at Heavenly Lotus sect's base in a moment. At this moment, Bo Qing and the rest had also just arrived. The remaining radiance of the teleportation immortal killer move on them had yet to dissipate. Both sides stared at each other, battle intent rising immediately. What's going on? Heavenly Lotus sect's Gu masters and Gu immortals were puzzled. Fight! A battle of rank 8s suddenly erupted. Central continent, Hu immortal blessed land, an underground cave. Success! Feng Yuan looked at the Gu formation in front of him, his eyes shining with joy as well as regret. Over these last few days, he had used the light of wisdom to continuously ponder and deduce, obtaining a powerful Gu formation to refine Bo Qing's sword path immortal Gu. This Gu formation actually used the light of wisdom as the core. It used Mo Yao's fake will along with the poison path immortal Gu, woman's heart, and the wisdom path immortal Gu, unravel mystery, to refine Bo Qing's immortal Gu. Unfortunately, after using this Gu formation for 3 days, I could only refine one immortal Gu. Moreover, I still don't know what use this immortal Gu has. I can't wait any longer. The Battle of Tian Mountain has already begun. The earlier I can obtain the immortal Gu house, the better. Undue delay might bring trouble. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 998, Prematurely Joining Tian Mountain. Chapter 998, Prematurely Joining Tian Mountain. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Southern border, Tian Mountain. Feng Yuan walked forward with big steps. His appearance had changed greatly. Huge bulging muscles, an exposed chest, thick hair over his head, chest, and beard, even along his legs. His hair was a muddy yellow color, his clothes were very tattered. His cheekbones were protruding, his fingers and toes all had extraordinarily huge joints. His nose bridge was short and stumpy, he had huge nostrils that contained thick hair, they were like open taps, gushing out together uncontrollably. Even though this appearance was ugly and disgusting, it was something that Feng Yuan had picked after careful consideration. In Feng Yuan's previous life, this person had come to Tian Mountain at this time. After rebirth, Feng Yuan secretly killed this person. Taking his place, Feng Yuan arrived at Tian Mountain. The sun had just risen, there was a thin fog. The scenery of Tian Mountain was still peaceful, there were birds chirping in the mountain's forests. At this time, the righteous and demonic battle had not even started its first wave. In his previous life, Feng Yuan had disguised himself and joined Tian Mountain. By that time, Tian Mountain was already immersed in heated battles, there were even demonic path guards at the base of the mountain. But this time, Feng Yuan had arrived here several months early. At this time, Xiao Shan had just been forced to leave his clan, he, Zhou Xingxing, and Sun Pang who had just created Tian village. Feng Yuan did not see any people as he walked. After getting partway up the mountain, he finally saw a glimpse of Tian village from the crevices between the dense trees. Tian village was still in the process of being built, it was not completed yet. Who is this? Which Gu immortal's pawn is this? He doesn't resemble a pure human, he seems to have hairy man blood. Humph, this guy is a half-breed, would anyone even choose him as a pawn? He. Far away, the southern border Gu immortals discussed the matter of Feng Yuan. Feng Yuan walked slowly, confidently and calmly. In his previous life, he had used vaguely familiar face and was not exposed by these southern border Gu immortals. Now that he was using an immortal killer move with attitude Gu as the core, familiar face, it was even more impossible for him to be exposed by them. He took big steps and went to the mountain peak. Soon, before he reached Tian village, someone finally stopped him. It was a rank 3 demonic path Gu master. But Feng Yuan was also disguised as a rank 3, so he did not dare to be careless. He asked in a serious tone, "You are?" Feng Yuan cupped his fists, saying boorishly, "My name is Huang Sha, I heard about Hero Zhao's matter and came to join you." The other rank 3 demonic path Gu master's body shook. He was not intimidated by the name of Huang Sha, instead, it was because Feng Yuan was too loud. "Okay, keep it down, why are you shouting? Since you know about our leader's reputation, come with me to meet him." The rank 3 Gu master rubbed his ears as he turned around. Feng Yuan laughed as he quickly chased. He had a huge body, his steps were huge, he quickly surpassed the Gu master in front. The demonic path Gu master was unhappy, he stretched out his arm, pulling Feng Yuan, "Why are you running so quickly? If you want to join Tian village, follow the rules, get it? I got here first, so my position is higher than yours. Follow behind me." Oh. Feng Yuan quickly nodded, pretending that he was all brawn and no brains. "This structure needs to be built properly. If anyone attacks us next time, we will defend from here. We need to set up at least 100 iron snake vine Gu." Xianxia pointed at a location and said this to a Gu master beside him. At this time, someone shouted, "Leader, your fame spreads throughout southern border. Right now, a new warrior has joined us." Xianxia heard this and was overjoyed, turning around to see Feng Yuan. The joy in his mind faded a little as he felt disappointment. But at the same time, he showed a look of appreciation on his face. He quickly went forward, patting Feng Yuan's shoulders. "What a strong man." Feng Yuan laughed and cupped his fists. "You are Hero Xiao. I am here to join you, you are really brave. You dared to oppose those righteous path members." Saying so, Feng Yuan raised his thumb at Xianxia, saying, "With just this, I am in admiration towards you, I am willing to follow you, but you have to feed me 3 meals a day." Xianxia saw that Feng Yuan was boorish and uneducated, the disappointment inside him grew. But on the surface, he did not show it, he praised Feng Yuan as he arranged a mission for him. After Feng Yuan left, Xianxia called Zhou Xingxing, asking, "This Huang Sha, what is his background? I am not too clear about it." Zhou Xingxing thought about it and laughed, "Brother, what rank are you? There are so many people in this world, how can such a minor character attract your attention? I know this person, his father is human and his mother is a female hairy man, he was born as a slave collecting sand rocks on Sand Mountain. In the end, on Sand Mountain, he obtained an inheritance by chance and became a Gu master. Next, he and a water path Gu master occupied a territory, calling themselves the Bai Sha twin generals. Afterwards, they were defeated by Tai clan Gu masters, Bai Jiang died while Huang Sha escaped, with his whereabouts unknown. To think that he came here after hearing brother's name. So that's it, I remember now, there was once a time when there was news about the Bai Sha twin generals assaulting Tai clan's merchant ships." Xianxia nodded, his expectations towards Feng Yuan fell to rock bottom. He even dared to touch Tai clan's ships, this showed that the Bai Sha twin generals were rash and boorish, they did not use their brains. Furthermore, this Huang Sha even had hairy man blood, this made Xianxia look down on him more. Hairy men, feather men, snowmen, and other variant humans were all the slaves of humans, why would human Gu masters treat them as equals? If Feng Yuan had rank 4 or 5 cultivation, Xianxia might have placed great emphasis on him and disregarded that point. But Feng Yuan was disguised as Huang Sha, who was only rank 3. Even though rank 3 was higher than the average Gu master. But in Tian village, it was not eye-catching. Very soon, Xianxia forgot about this Huang Sha. Feng Yuan was at a worksite. "Now, I have joined Tian mountain, and was sent by Xianxia to help in the building of the village, it shows that this person is not placing attention on me. Good, this is my motive after all. Everything has been very successful so far. If Feng Yuan had higher cultivation level, he would be given a major role by Xiao Shan. In the following righteous demonic battle, he would definitely be kept busy. If he did not go for the missions, he would expose himself, but if he went, he would be wasting time. If his cultivation level was lower, he would be cannon fodder, sent to the front lines to attract the enemy's firepower and waste their primeval essence. After some battles, he would be sacrificed. Only with rank 3 cultivation level, it was neither high nor low, he could be the leader of a small group. He would not be given important missions, and if he survived in the battlefield, nobody would find it strange. Tian Mountain's Forbidden Zone only targeted immortal apertures, it did not affect immortal Gu. In his previous life, Feng Yuan had deduced a method on how to seal immortal apertures. But now, he had this method prepared in advance, he could join Tian village a few months earlier. Even though his immortal aperture was sealed, his body was still an immortal zombie body. During the day, he worked at the sites and easily did physical labor. At night, when everyone was asleep, he would be awake and refining Graceful Chaotic Dual Stage secretly. Graceful Chaotic Dual Stage was suppressing the great strength true martial immortal zombie, not allowing any freedom. This rank 8 great strength true martial immortal zombie had no signs of life at all. It seemed like its soul had completely dissipated. But Feng Yuan had his previous life's memories, he did not dare to be careless. He did not probe the great strength true martial immortal zombie, he placed his efforts on refining the battle will. The southern border Gu immortals engaging in this gambling contest were trying to refine the battle will into their own, they needed these mortal Gu master pawns to engage in fierce combat to create their own battle will and resonate with the immortal Gu house. They would then convert the pure battle will in the immortal Gu house into their personal battle will. But Feng Yuan came in person, and was also a wisdom path grandmaster, he did not need to do so. Even if he did not fight fiercely, he could increase the battle will in his mind and convert the immortal Gu house's battle will, his efficiency was many times that of ordinary Gu immortals. If someone turned all the battle will in the immortal Gu house into their own battle will, they would complete the unfinished last step of the rank 8 immortal zombie, that is, refining the immortal Gu house and becoming the true owner of the immortal Gu house. Thus, there was a key point needed for Feng Yuan to snatch Graceful Chaotic Dual Stage from these southern border Gu immortals. At the final period of time, the immortal Gu house's pure battle will would be completely refined by everyone. But there can only be one winner. Thus, these battle wills had to engage in combat and undergo a terrifying battle. In this battle, any loser would vanish, there would only be one winner. I am a wisdom path grandmaster, I have a huge advantage in a fight between battle wills. Furthermore, I am going to take the lead and refine battle will at many times the speed of others. The more battle will I convert, the bigger my advantage during the battle will contest. As long as I follow my plan, it is assured that I would obtain the immortal Gu house. But there might be unexpected surprises. While Feng Yuan was pondering, the other southern border Gu immortals were also harboring their own intentions. Xiao Clan's Supreme Elder was paying close attention to the developments on Tian Mountain. He had barely survived his last tribulation. The next one was approaching, he had lost all hope initially, but the appearance of the immortal Gu house Graceful Chaotic Dual Stage gave this Gu immortal see the light of hope within the darkness. Thus, in this unprecedented gambling contest, he went all in on his bets. Almost all of his wealth was invested into it. His stake was the highest among the immortals, according to the rules, one of his pawns, Xiao Shan, became the first Gu master to ascend the Tian Mountain. Xiao Clan's Supreme Elder also became the first Gu immortal in southern border to start refining battle will in the immortal Gu house. I must succeed in obtaining the immortal Gu house, I cannot fail. Without this immortal Gu house, in the following tribulation, I will definitely die. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 999, Chess Piece, Chess Player. Chapter 999, Chess Piece, Chess Player. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. But looking at it now, I have made a good start. I have converted the highest amount of battle will. As long as I maintain this advantage, the immortal Gu house is mine. Shao Clan's supreme elder spurred himself on secretly, but he was also aware internally, the biggest difficulty was in maintaining his current advantage. According to the rules, the second to take the stage was the pawn of a Wu clan Gu immortal, Wu Dangji. This female immortal from Wu clan was an insightful character. She chose someone with lower cultivation level, as the cost of entering Tian mountain earlier. Hopefully, Shao Shan does not disappoint me later. Shao clan's supreme elder's wish was something that the other southern border Gu immortals were unwilling to see happen. Right now, Shao clan's ancestor had created a huge advantage. The southern border Gu immortals wanted to see Shao Shan defeated or even killed, so that the advantage of Shao clan's ancestor would be gone, and they would have an opportunity. Wu Shentong arrived near Tian mountain. Everyone, I bear a mission of utmost importance to the clan. To exterminate evil, we will pay any cost. He pointed at Tian mountain, his expression was stern as his intent to fight surged, along with his battle will. Around him were many Gu masters. Among them, those with the highest cultivation were 3 rank 4 Gu masters. One was a Wu clan elder, guarding Wu Shentong. The other 2 were clan leaders of villages that were subordinates of Wu clan. Wu Shentong was a rank 4 peak stage enslavement path Gu master. He was thin and had a pale face, he coughed from time to time, like a sickly scholar, he could not even stand in the cold winds for long. But nobody dared to look down on him, because he cultivated enslavement path. This path allowed him to fight many people single-handedly. On Tian mountain, the strongest person is Shao clan's former leader Shao Shan. Below him are Sun Pang Hu and Zhou Xing, 2 demonic path Gu masters. These 3 are all rank 5 Gu masters. In my opinion, we should act slowly, inviting more righteous path members to join us. This will make the battle more assured, and we can prevent these demons from escaping as well. A rank 4 clan leader suggested. Wu Shentong's expression turned grim. He wanted to do this too, but this mission was a forced mission by the clan, they had given him a certain timing. It was so strict and rushed, Wu Shentong could not help but suspect that he had become a sacrifice in a political conflict of his clan. He exerted all of his effort and used his network to recruit all of these people around him. Wu Shentong would not understand the truth of Tian mountain even after death. All these high and mighty Gu masters were all merely the tools of the Gu immortals gambling contest. He certainly did not know, at this point in time, how many southern border Gu immortals were placing their attention on him. You do not need to say any more. As long as everyone protects me, even if they have rank 5 battle strength, how long can they last against the beasts? Once their primeval essence is expended, the accomplishment of killing a rank 5 will be all yours. Furthermore, I am going personally, I have some confidence of course, why would I send myself to die? Wu Shentong was a skilled person, with just a few words, he dispelled everyone's suspicions and raised the group's morale. They moved quickly, they were trying a sneak attack. A moment later, the mountain was covered in beast groups, under Wu Shentong's manipulation, they charged towards Tian mountain. Right now, Tian village was still being built. The demonic path Gu masters were all in chaos, they were used to fighting alone, even though Shao Shan was trying to group his men together and organize them, there was little effect in the short term. Shao Shan was extremely anxious, he thought, Tian village has just been built, we are only partway through completion. This is my first fight against the righteous path, Tian village is like a banner, it cannot fall. Once it falls, our morale will suffer, it is like a heavy blow that will make us falter forever. Losing our reputation, who would come here and join me? Thinking of this, Shao Shan immediately ordered the demonic path Gu masters to defend Tian village with their lives. Shao Shan's thoughts were very precise, but he greatly overestimated the ability of the demonic path Gu masters to cooperate. If demonic path Gu masters fought righteous path Gu masters one-on-one, they usually won more than they lost. But when there were many people, if they had even numbers, the righteous path usually won. Without any cooperation, the demonic path Gu masters were just a mob. Against the huge beast groups, they did not place priority on defending the strategic points, this was what Wu Shentong most wanted to see. Initially, large numbers of wild beasts died from the demonic path Gu Master's attacks. But soon, the demonic path Gu Master's attacks became more sparse. After all, mortal Gu Masters had limited primeval essence. The wild beasts charged past the attacks of the demonic path Gu Masters and assaulted them. The demonic path Gu Masters suffered heavier and heavier losses. The battle was tilting in favor of the righteous path. Good. Great. The southern border Gu immortals watched the battle as they showed expressions of joy. Xiao clan's ancestor had a dark expression. He stared at Xiao Shan fixedly. Xiao Shan was an veteran of the battlefield. He knew that the situation could not go on. He shouted, "Rank 4 and 5 experts, come with me and kill the enslavement path Gu Master. Everyone else, retreat while you battle." In the current situation, the demonic path was suffering terrible losses. Meanwhile, although the righteous path was few in numbers, they did not lose anyone. Everyone knew that fighting alone would not result in a good ending. Only by relying on one another and carving out a path of blood could they survive. Xiao Shan's words received quick response. The rank 4 and 5 Gu Masters were all secretly joyful and gathered around Xiao Shan. The remaining rank 2 and 3 Gu Masters, however, all had pale expressions. The people who charged out were strong. No matter what, if they managed to get out of the encirclement, they could escape alone. But the Gu Masters who stayed back were surrounded by beast groups. There was nowhere they could go. They could only await reinforcements. Only Feng Yuan, despite having an anxious and ferocious expression, had peace of mind. Even if the beast groups expanded by 100 times, they were no threat to him. Furthermore, he had the knowledge of his previous life. He knew what was going to happen. As expected, the following developments were almost the same as in his previous life. In this sudden fight, the demonic path Gu Masters fought against the waves of beast groups and moved forward, causing many Gu Masters to die along the way. But eventually, they managed to get to Wushan Tong. Xiao Shan, Sun Panghu, and Zhou Xing were rank 5 Gu Masters. They were forced into a desperate situation. They had to attack the righteous path. After an intense battle, 2 rank 4 Gu Masters from the righteous path died, while Wushan Tong retreated with heavy injuries. The other rank 4 elder from Wu clan blocked them desperately. At the crucial moment, a group of flying birds came and saved Wushan Tong from the demonic path's objective of killing him. They had no choice but to return to Tian Mountain. That night, Xiao Shan gathered the remaining demonic path members in a certain cave. He was bathed in blood. His eyes were bloodshot as he called out in a hoarse voice, "Wushan Tong is not dead yet. He is truly a threat. As long as he is alive, we will face the threat of an unceasing tide of beasts. We need to kill him, otherwise, Tian village will never be built." Xiao Shan had just finished his words, but there was little response. The demonic path Gu Masters had suffered a loss. Their morale was low. Among them, a rank 3 Gu Master said dejectedly, "Leader, we should retreat. The righteous path is very powerful. It is normal that we cannot win. But we can always fight back another day. We should leave this dangerous place and find another mountain to rebuild Tian village. That is possible too." As he said that, a sharp light flashed in Xiao Shan's eyes as he stood up and attacked. He raised his saber and killed the demonic path Gu Master on the spot, shouting, "This person is trying to shake our spirit. He deserves death. If anyone dares to request to retreat, you will end up like him." Sun Panghu and Zhou Xing immediately stood up, walking to either side of Xiao Shan, with wary expressions towards everyone. The Gu Masters were all stunned by Xiao Shan's demeanor. They quickly spoke and agreed to battle to the death. Xiao Shan's expression relaxed. "I know that everyone is having a hard time. There are injuries. But no injury can compare to our brothers who have sacrificed themselves today, right? Everyone, rest in this cave today. Tomorrow, we will gather our forces and fight on the path to killing Wushan Tong. We will not rest until he is dead." Everyone quickly responded. Feng Yuan was among them. His wounds were still bleeding, but of course, it was a disguise. The night sky grew darker. The mountain cave was not big. There was not much space for the demonic path Gu Masters to sleep. This was a cave that Xiao Shan specially chose. It was easy for them to monitor each other. If they needed to use the toilet, they had to do it in the cave. Soon, the cave was filled with the disgusting smell of blood, sweat, urine and feces mixed together. The demonic Path Gu masters were tossing and turning, thinking about the desperate battle tomorrow. They could not sleep. Only one person was sleeping soundly, it was Feng Yuan. His snoring could be heard in the entire cave. Xianxia was shutting his eyes and resting. Hearing this sound, he opened his eyes and saw Feng Yuan. He smiled lightly and said loudly, "This guy has no worries." His voice attracted everyone's attention. Xianxia continued, "Don't worry everyone, I have complete confidence in tomorrow's battle. That Wu Shentong has already been severely injured, he is definitely going to die tomorrow. I, Xianxia, swear that I will not run away. If I go against my word, may heaven bring judgment upon me, and may the world shake in anger." The demons were inspired, they were in admiration towards Xiaoxian's enthusiasm and aspiration. But they did not know that Xiaoxian was trying to subdue the immortal Gu in his body, and obtain the acknowledgement of Xiao clan's ancestor. Unless he had no choice, he would never retreat from here. Xiaoxian thought of these demonic Path Gu masters in the cave as his chess pieces. In contrast, he was a chess piece of Xiao clan's ancestor, but he did not know. On this night, the chess player, Xiao clan's ancestor, was also feeling anxious and worried. After the fight today at Tian mountain, he had left his place of residence, arriving at a mountain peak. He stood for a long time under the winds of the mountain. "Master, Xiao clan's ancestor has requested to meet you, but you have not agreed to it. He is a rank 7 Gu immortal, he has already been outside for 2 hours. Won't it be bad if we continue dragging it on?" Lu Xuanfeng asked carefully and softly. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1000, Changes Beyond Expectations. Chapter 1000, Changes Beyond Expectations. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. His master, rank 7 lone cultivator old man Xianxia, was sitting cross-legged on a mat. He remained unmoved and had his eyes closed, even after hearing Lu Xuanfeng's words. After a long while, Xiao clan's ancestor spoke again from outside the cave, "Brother Xianxia, I am willing to add in 10 heavenly dragon pearls, please help me." Old man Xianxia slowly opened his eyes and said to Lu Xuanfeng, "Disciple, go to Tian mountain and solve this crisis for Xiaoxian." Lu Xuanfeng hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to old man Xianxia. "Master, this disciple shall leave." Although he said this, Lu Xuanfeng was still kneeling down on the ground, and did not show any signs of getting up. Old man Xianxia smiled, "Your crafty nature, I can see right through it." He then blew cold air towards Lu Xuanfeng. The cold air seeped into Lu Xuanfeng's belly, and lingered there without dispersing. "This immortal Gu can protect you. Go now." Lu Xuanfeng was joyous, kowtowing 3 more times before getting up and cheekily speaking, "I was actually thinking in the interests of Master. As a disciple, losing my life is not important, but then Master would have no one to serve him, what to do then? Master has shown me great benevolence, I still haven't returned it, so how could I die so easily? Go now, go." Old man Xianxia sighed, repeatedly waving his hand at Lu Xuanfeng. Wu Shentong led the beast group to attack Tian mountain. Tian village, which only had its foundations constructed, was destroyed. The demonic side's morale fell sharply. Xiaoxian was determined to fight back to the death. But on that very evening, the rank 5 Gu master Lu Xuanfeng infiltrated the righteous path's camp and assassinated Wu Shentong, bringing his head back to Tian mountain. Xiaoxian was ecstatic, saying to Lu Xuanfeng, "Brother Lu is magnanimous, thanks to Brother Lu, all of us were saved." Lu Xuanfeng was a quick-witted person, immediately cupping his fists, replying in a cordial manner, "Brother Xiao exaggerates, I only took advantage of an opportunity. If not for Brother Xiao and the other comrades fighting with all you have and inflicting heavy injuries to Wu Shentong, how could I have easily taken his life? Out of the total contribution, I can only account for 10%, and the other 90 would go to everyone here." When they heard such words, everyone immediately had a much better impression of Lu Xuanfeng. Xiaoxian's heart sank, he was not able to ruin Lu Xuanfeng's fame by overpraising him, so he quickly changed his words to stabilize and pull Lu Xuanfeng to Tian village. Like this, the righteous path's first wave of offense collapsed under the attacks of Xiao Shan, Lu Xuanfeng and the rest. Feng Yuan was staying on the sidelines, not caring any less about this situation, viewing it coldly with the stance of a bystander and not provoking any doubts. He thought of the information gathered during his previous life. It seems in this life as well, due to Wu Shentong being heavily injured and Xiao Shan's situation being critical, Xiao clan's ancestor sought old man Yuxia's help. This old man Yuxia is a well-known lone immortal of southern border, with some friction against Wu clan. And with Xiao clan's ancestor giving him heavy payment, he was able to increase his wager, letting Lu Xuanfeng enter Tian mountain early on. And the female immortal from Wu clan, Wu Dangji, had lost her chess piece because of this scheme. Although she had refined much of the battle will, her loss was the greatest. Righteous and demonic paths are fighting on Tian mountain, but the masterminds are the southern border Gu immortals behind them. Mortals are like ants. Let them continue scheming against each other. After this battle, the amount of battle will I have refined has already surpassed Xiao Shan, becoming the highest. Like this, Feng Yuan was silently earning a fortune. The battle will he refined secretly continued to grow, but no one noticed. Time passed, the second wave of the righteous and demonic battle erupted. After the first wave of offense, in which Wu Dangji suffered a loss, she was still unreconciled. Old man Yuxia had increased his wager, how could she not do that as well? Therefore, she chose another person and allied with a Shang clan Gu immortal, not repeating the previous mistake of fighting alone. At the battlefield on Tian mountain, Wu clan's Gu masters attacked Tian mountain. At the same time during this attack, Shang clan's two newly advanced elders, Yan Tu and Zhu Kai Bei, also joined. Both sides fought at the base of Tian mountain, having some wins and losses on either side. They were in a deadlock. This time, Lan Meihe and Fei Yuwang ascended the mountain, joining Tian village. These two Gu masters were not simple, they were famous flying masters in the world of southern borders Gu masters. Tian village thus had the upper hand, and the righteous path members were forced back. To resist Lan Meihe and Fei Yuwang, the righteous path invited a female Gu master, Hong Feiyu. She was also a flying master, but belonged to the righteous path. But Hong Feiyu alone could not resist the combination of two flying masters of the demonic path. Hong Feiyu was at the moment between life and death. When Shang clan's reinforcements rushed and arrived, it was the white light swordsman Wei Yang. Wei Yang had been nurtured by Shang Yan Fei and had his aptitude raised. His cultivation level was at rank 4 initial stage. Not only did he save Hong Feiyu, he even gained much fame. After Hong Feiyu was heavily injured and retreated, he fought against both Lan Meihe and Fei Yuwang, eventually managing to stall for enough time until more reinforcements from the righteous path came, as Lan Meihe and Fei Yuwang were forced to retreat. After this battle, Wei Yang was acknowledged by both the righteous and demonic paths, joining the ranks of the flying masters. Southern Border's 3 famous flying masters became 4 famous flying masters, with Wei Yang at the top. With Wei Yang's addition, the righteous and demonic battle entered another deadlock once again. However, as second zombie king entered Tian mountain, enslavement path showed its might again. The righteous path lacked Wu Shentong and had no choice but to fall back. Thereupon, the second righteous and demonic fight came to an end. Behind the scenes of this were the southern border Gu immortals plotting and conspiring. Naturally the mortal Gu masters could not imagine it. The only one who was in the know on Tian mountain, Feng Yuan, was secretly earning a fortune, disregarding all of this. With Huang Sha's identity, he had gone on the battlefield and had encountered Wei Yang face to face. This expert under Shang Yan Fei had once taken great care of Feng Yuan and Bai Ningbing when they were in Shang clan city. Right now, Wei Yang's growth was large. Feng Yuan, however, was already an immortal. It could be said that times had changed. After this battle, Feng Yuan was already way ahead in the amount of battle will refined. The lead was so huge that even if all the southern border Gu immortals added up their refined battle wills, it would still be slightly less than Feng Yuan's. Central Continent, Heavenly Lotus Sect. Rumble. Explosions resounded without an end. All the surroundings within an enormous area had turned into a desolate land, sand rolling and covering the sky. In the desolate land were many deep craters, some burned with fire, some had piles of ice, some was still letting out rumblings of thunder. A river of blood flowed wantonly in this battlefield. Because of the battle between rank 8s, the original mountainous terrain had completely changed. This was the location of Heavenly Lotus sect, and also home to famous mountains and rivers, possessing profound natural Dao marks. Otherwise, the landscape would be even more severely ruined. After a round of battle stopped, with Sword Immortal Bo Qing at the lead, Shadow Sect's group retreated by some distance, panting roughly. In front of them were 3 Immortal Gu houses hovering in the air. One was Canary Pavilion, which was delicate and exquisite. Another was Yuyang Palace, which shined with brilliant radiance. However, the gazes of Shadow Sect's group were focused on the central Immortal Gu house. This Immortal Gu house was rank 8, named Heavenly Pool. Looking from the outside, this was a pool with a small area. It could even be said to be among the world's smallest Immortal Gu houses. But this heavenly pool was filled with green lotuses, some were in full bloom while some were closed. However, in every lotus was a blessed land or grotto heaven. The rank 8 Immortal Gu house, Heavenly Pool, was the base of Heavenly Lotus sect, created by Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable. Its greatest use was to store immortal apertures. If we can't take down Heavenly Pool, these losses to Heavenly Lotus sect can't even be considered to be harming them. Song Zixing said heavily. But it is too difficult to take down. Among the 10 venerables, Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable was most specialized in healing and recovery. This heavenly pool has inherited his style to an exaggerated degree. If it is not broken apart in one attack, it can recover any severe losses in a short period of time. Yumu Chun was solemn. Immortal Zombie 7-star Child shook his head. Not only Heavenly Pool, the other 2 Immortal Gu houses are also very difficult to handle. And Bo Qing's greatest weakness is already known and being used by them. Immortal Zombie Bo Qing's greatest weakness was Zimo Yao's remnant soul. This remnant soul was the biggest shortcoming. Its greatest flaw was that it was very easy to target. In the previous life, Bo Qing had died and the soul inside was destroyed by Heavenly Quartz Gu immortals. This life, Immortal Zombie Bo Qing had even lost Wisdom Sword Gu, which had been a trump card against Wisdom Path methods when he was alive. After losing this Gu, Immortal Zombie Bo Qing had to be even more cautious when fighting and was extremely passive. Let's go. We have already achieved our goal of delaying them. Immortal Zombie 7-star Child retreated first, his body turning into a rainbow light, quickly flying far away. Bo Qing and the rest also followed closely behind. Escaping the judgment of fate and attacking one of the 10 great ancient sects, such audacity, this is unpardonable. And you still want to leave? Heavenly Lotus sect's 3 Immortal Gu houses chased after them. From within Heavenly Pool came Heaven Overseeing Tower Lord's furious voice. 7-star Child's expression changed slightly, saying to the other Gu immortals, in the current situation, someone has to bring up the rear and hold them off until the others can escape. I will do it. Immortal Zombie Bo Qing immediately spoke. It is better if I do it. Azure, Blue and Song Zixing, you all have higher battle strength than me, you will be a lot more helpful to our crucial plan. Yumu Chun had an indifferent expression while he volunteered to stay behind. The other 3 immortals' gazes flashed, and they quickly retreated without hesitation, leaving behind Yumu Chun to cover their retreat. Overestimating your ability. Hehe, demonic path people specialize in treachery. You think you can stop us, what gives you such blind confidence? The righteous path immortals angrily called out one after the other, the 3 Immortal Gu houses nearing. Yumu Chun looked at the approaching death calmly and with a smile, you think we haven't made any arrangements? Saying this, he fell to the ground. An enormous Gu formation gave a brilliant flash of light that reached to the sky. The information about this battle was simply unable to be concealed by Central Continent. After Feng Yuan learned of the news, his gaze flickered. This event was already very different from his previous life. Immortal Zombie Bo Qing was still alive. As such, he would naturally hold animosity against Feng Yuan, who had stolen his Immortal Gu. Feng Yuan sent his consciousness inside his sealed immortal aperture, in there was a mysterious immortal Gu. This immortal Gu was one of the harvests Feng Yuan had reaped from Bo Qing's immortal zombie body. But in fact, this immortal Gu's original owner was not Bo Qing but Mo Yao. Because this immortal Gu's body was filled with Mo Yao's will, Feng Yuan was able to quickly refine this immortal Gu using Mo Yao's fake will. As for the other Sword Path immortal Gu, their true owner was Bo Qing, with large amounts of his will in them. So when Feng Yuan used the same Gu formation, it would take a lot more time to refine these immortal Gu. I can forget about these Sword Path immortal Gu for now, they definitely cannot be used in this battle. As for this mysterious immortal Gu, I have tried to inspect it over these last days, but unfortunately I did not gain anything even from Lang Yalan's Spirit's End. At present, the sixth wave of offense between righteous and demonic has already passed. The scale of my battle will in the immortal Gu house probably is already over 30 times the total amount of the battle will of the southern border Gu immortals. If I battle with them at this time, within less than 15 minutes, I can clear out all their battle will. There were probably many among the southern border Gu immortals who had wisdom path attainment. But so what? Not to mention Feng Yuan's wisdom path grandmaster level, just based on the scale of the battle will, he already occupied absolute dominance. The southern border Gu immortals already had no chance of victory. It could be said that these Gu immortals were already of no concern, but Feng Yuan was still filled with worry. I have refined it for so long, but there is actually still pure battle will remaining in the immortal Gu house. I wonder what quantity are there exactly. Can I make it in time? Feng Yuan looked up at the sky. The night was dark and hazy. Feng Yuan felt somewhat stifled. The amount of pure battle will in graceful chaotic duel stage had greatly surpassed Feng Yuan's expectations. His original plan was to get this immortal Gu house earlier on and leave freely. But now, it had already dragged on until this day. When would he finish? If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.